If you're over Altmush, there's a quiet mistake many make in the name of health. And it happens in the fruit bowl. You've been told for years that fruit is the smart choice. It's natural. It's light. It's good for your heart. But here's what no one talks about. Some fruits, when eaten at the wrong time or in the wrong amount, can quietly strain your blood vessels, spike your blood sugar, and even raise your stroke risk while you sleep. And you might not feel a thing. You go to bed thinking you've done everything right. Then you wake up and something's off. Your hand is numb. Your words won't form. You can't stand without wobbling. As a neurologist, I've seen stroke after stroke in patients who followed all the usual health advice. They ate their fruit, drank their juice, skipped dessert. But what they didn't know is that certain fruits work against the aging body, not with it. After 60, your circulation slows. Your arteries stiffen. Your brain is more sensitive to sugar shifts, dehydration, and even mild inflammation. And that's exactly what some fruits can trigger. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 9 everyday fruits that could be quietly working against your brain, your balance, and your independence. You don't need to fear fruit, but you do need to know which ones to watch out for, especially if stroke, memory loss, or high blood pressure runs in your family. Let's start with one of the most surprising. 1. Bananas. Too much potassium all at once can become a silent threat. As a neurologist, I've seen my share of strokes that came out of nowhere. But nothing is more troubling than everyday habits that quietly set the stage for disaster. Bananas, surprisingly enough, are one of those hidden risks. For decades, we've been told they're the perfect snack. Soft, easy on the stomach, packed with potassium, even recommended for heart health, and for younger adults, that often holds true. But after Trez, the body changes in ways that demand more caution, especially in how the kidneys, heart, and blood vessels handle sudden shifts in minerals like potassium. Here's what needs to be clear. As we age, kidney function naturally slows. Filtering becomes less efficient, especially if high blood pressure, diabetes, or common medications like ACE inhibitors or water pills are involved. Potassium, abundant in bananas, can then accumulate in the blood. That buildup triggers heart rhythm problems, tightens blood vessels, and worst of all, creates blood clots, where blood should flow freely in the brain. Such a clot can bring everything to a halt in seconds. I still remember a patient named Harold Lusherbaugh, a retired school principal from Indiana. He was sharp, independent, and careful about eating well. Every morning, he'd add banana slices to his cereal and wash down his blood pressure pills with orange juice. It was part of his routine for over a year. Then one morning, his wife found him slumped in his chair, unable to speak clearly, his right arm limp. Tests showed a small but damaging stroke with dangerously high blood potassium levels that had disrupted his heart rhythm and sparked clot formation overnight. He never realized that even 2 bananas a day, combined with his medication, could push his body past its limits. This is the reality so many seniors aren't warned about. The body simply doesn't need that much potassium at once. especially in the evening when circulation slows. Hydration dips, and medications remain active. This combination creates stiff arteries, thicker blood, and the conditions for a clot that may not leave room for a second chance. In the next part, we'll take a look at a fruit that seems perfectly harmless, but could be quietly feeding the sugar spikes and hidden inflammation that weaken your brain over time. Let's take a closer look. 2. Grapes. Sweet, juicy, and so inviting. Grapes seem like the perfect little treat. They're a staple at family gatherings, tossed into your morning cereal, or shared with the grandkids after Sunday dinner. They feel safe, even wholesome, but for those of us past 60, especially anyone with hidden circulation issues or blood sugar that's not as stable as it once was, grapes can quietly set the stage for real trouble. Every grape is packed with natural sugars in a tiny, easy-to-eat package. Those seedless, extra sweet varieties, so common on American shelves, deliver an immediate hit of glucose and fructose straight into your blood. And our aging bodies don't handle that surge as gracefully anymore. As the years pass, insulin response slows, and blood vessels become more fragile. That fast sugar rush doesn't just tax your pancreas. It triggers low-grade inflammation along the vessel walls. Even those feeding your brain, inflammation leads to stiffness, tiny tears, and eventually clot formation you never see coming. No routine checkup will catch it in time. If it builds slowly, I remember Mr. Thomas Avery, Tisser Luke, a retired mail carrier from Ohio. He always chose what he thought were healthy snacks. No cakes, no candy bars, just fresh fruit every day. He especially loved green grapes, filling a big bowl to enjoy with the morning news. He rarely paused to think about portion size. Then one morning, as he was writing a letter, his words slipped away. His hand wouldn't obey. A rush to the ER confirmed a transient ischemic attack, a warning stroke. Tests revealed blood sugar spikes he hadn't realized were happening, alongside chronic inflammation that quietly damaged his vessels over the years. This is why I tell my older patients that even healthy foods need context. Grapes digest rapidly, sending sugar flooding through your system. Especially dangerous on an empty stomach or during dehydration. Over time, these spikes set up the perfect conditions for clotting. And one day it breaks. For safety, pair grapes with a bit of protein like cheese or nuts. Keep portions small. And eat them during the day when you're most active. And if you're managing diabetes or on certain medications, you may need to avoid them altogether. Because what seems harmless can, over time, threaten not just your memory, but your independence. And speaking of sweet risks, there's a tropical favorite that can do even more damage than just spiking sugar. Pineapple's acidity is unique enzyme, and the way it affects the brain overnight deserve a closer look. 3. Pineapple. There's something about pineapple that feels like pure summer in every bite. Sweet, tangy, and tropical. It seems like such an innocent pleasure. Many older adults choose it as their go-to dessert after dinner, thinking it's a healthy, light choice that helps with digestion thanks to its natural enzymes. But what worries me deeply as a neurologist is how, under certain conditions and timing, Pineapple can quietly raise stroke risk overnight. Inside pineapple is bromelain, an enzyme that can help break down proteins in small amounts. It sounds helpful, but when consumed too often, especially with some medications, it can disrupt how your blood clots, making platelets less effective and creating the possibility of unexpected bleeding or clotting. For those over 60 whose blood vessels have already thinned and whose metabolism has slowed, this imbalance can become dangerous. Add to that the sugar load, over 16 grams in a single cup. Pineapple has a high glycemic index, sending sugar racing through your bloodstream in a rush that doesn't get burned off in the quiet hours of the evening. Instead, it sits there, putting pressure on fragile blood vessels during sleep. And then there's the acidity. Pineapple is among the most acidic fruits many Americans eat. For seniors, this acid can cause silent reflux without the classic burning pain. It may trigger microaspiration at night and subtle airway changes that reduce oxygen levels during sleep, a known factor in early morning strokes. I'll never forget Mr. Leonard Price, Tisha Joe, a retired accountant from Illinois. He was thoughtful about his diet, avoiding cakes or pies, and replacing them with fresh pineapple at night. It became part of his nightly ritual. One morning, he woke confused and unsteady, his words jumbled. Scans showed a small but damaging stroke. His tests revealed blood sugar elevations, signs of reflux damage, and platelet irregularities. It wasn't one single cause, but a combination of acid, sugar, and bromelain working quietly over time. For older adults, digestion slows, vessels weaken, and sleep becomes a vulnerable window. That's why enjoying pineapple earlier in the day in small portions and avoiding it close to bedtime can make a real difference. And if you thought pineapple was surprising, consider watermelon. While praised for hydration, in certain conditions, it can leave your brain vulnerable to dehydration and blood pressure drops that set the stage for real trouble. Let's keep going and talk about that next. 4. Watermelon. Few fruits capture the spirit of an American summer quite like watermelon. Chilled slices on a hot afternoon, sharing a plate with family on the porch. That crisp, refreshing crunch that feels like the safest treat around. It seems harmless, even necessary in the heat. And yes, watermelon is loaded with water, but for older adults, particularly those with heart conditions or on certain medications, it can quietly create the wrong kind of risk. Not by adding too much sugar or acid, but by quietly pulling precious fluids away. As a neurologist, I've seen far too many seniors inadvertently increase their stroke risk with foods they thought were helping. Watermelon is one of the most common misunderstandings. It acts as a diuretic, encouraging the body to release more fluid through urine for a young adult. That's barely a concern. But for someone over 60, especially those with borderline blood pressure or taking diuretics or ACE inhibitors, this effect can mean trouble overnight. Dehydration doesn't announce itself with loud warning bells. It thickens the blood quietly, turning it from something that flows easily to something sluggish, sticky, and more prone to clotting in aging arteries. The brain, so sensitive to changes in oxygen, is left vulnerable when that blood flow slows or stops entirely during the night. I think of Miss Eleanor Brooks, Bashayi, a retired librarian from Georgia. Careful with her diet, she avoided sweets and processed snacks, choosing instead 2 or 3 thick slices of watermelon after dinner to cool off. She believed she was hydrating, but she was also on a diuretic for mild hypertension. That combination drained her body of fluids while she slept. One morning, she woke dizzy and fell trying to get out of bed. Paramedics found her blood pressure dangerously low. Tests revealed blood that was too concentrated. The clear sign of dehydration. Scans confirmed a small ischemic stroke had developed overnight. Eleanor survived but needed help to dress and move, losing the independence she prized. This isn't about scaring anyone. It's about awareness. Eating watermelon late in the day while on certain medications can set up the perfect conditions for clotting during sleep. Thick blood, low pressure, slow circulation. These create a silent risk. Enjoy watermelon early. Pair it with electrolytes like a pinch of salt. And talk with your doctor if you're on water pills. Because even a fruit that seems 90% water can quietly steal your health if you're not careful. And if that feels eye-opening, the next fruit is even more surprising. The classic American orange, so often linked with healthy breakfasts, hides a chemical twist that can interfere dangerously with your heart and brain medications in ways most people never imagine. 5. Oranges. Oranges have long been part of the American picture of health. A glass of fresh juice at breakfast, a bowl of slices on the counter, even tucked into Christmas stockings for generations. They've earned their reputation as nature's vitamin C powerhouse. But for older adults, especially those taking heart or blood pressure medications, that innocent fruit can turn into a complex chemical challenge with real consequences. The issue isn't just the sugar content. Though a large orange or full glass of juice can send blood sugar climbing fast, it's also about a natural compound found in citrus called furanocoumarin, something many seniors have never heard of. Furanocoumarin changes the way the body handles certain medications. For those taking statins, calcium channel blockers, or blood thinners, this compound can interfere with the liver's ability to process those drugs properly. That means instead of a steady, safe dose moving through the system, the medication can build up to dangerous levels, or conversely, get flushed too quickly to be effective. The result can be unpredictable. Blood pressure swings, vessel constriction, or blood clots forming silently over time. I remember Mrs. Ruth Wallace Tisherbaugh, a retired piano teacher from Virginia, a warm, thoughtful woman who prided herself on staying healthy. Every morning, she poured herself a big glass of fresh squeezed orange juice, calling it her daily sunshine, but she was also on medication for high cholesterol and blood pressure. She had no idea the citrus compounds were blocking her liver from properly clearing those drugs. Her blood pressure medication accumulated, dropping her pressure too low at times, while her statin built up in her bloodstream, creating inflammation and stressing her vessels. One morning, after a week of feeling a bit off, she tried to stand and collapsed. At the hospital, tests revealed elevated drug levels and a small ischemic stroke caused by a clot in her brain. I share Ruth's story because so many people simply don't know. As we age, the liver works more slowly, and the risk of medication-food interactions grows. For those over 60, I recommend using citrus with caution. Smaller portions, a splash in water instead of a big glass. And always checking with your doctor. If you're on prescription drugs, because it's not just the pill bottles you need to think about, but the fruit bowl on your counter, even well-meaning habits can quietly create danger over time. And after exploring these 5 fruits that might not be as safe as they seem, many people wonder what foods really do support the aging brain, protect the heart, and keep meals joyful. There is hope, and there are options. Let's talk next about the foods that heal instead of harm. In this final part, let's talk about real, brain-safe foods that can help protect memory, improve balance, and work well with your medications. No need for fancy powders, pills, or hard-to-pronounce ingredients. Just simple, whole foods chosen with a little wisdom. The truth is, after hearing about these 9 fruits that can quietly increase stroke risk, you might feel unsettled or even disappointed. Fruit has always been sold as nature's medicine, a gift you could trust. But aging changes everything about how our bodies handle even the healthiest foods. What you ate comfortably at 40 hits differently at 70. Kidneys slow down. The liver can't clear medications as efficiently. Blood vessels lose their youthful flexibility, and the brain, so delicate and essential, becomes more vulnerable to blood pressure swings, sugar spikes, and clotting. This makes every bite more important than ever. Many older adults with the best intentions create daily routines that quietly put their brain at risk. Bananas with medication, grapes as snacks, pineapple at night, or orange juice first thing in the morning. These habits seem harmless, but can set off slow, silent changes that stiffen arteries, inflame vessels, or disrupt clotting balance until one day a tiny clot steals speech, movement, or memory. As someone who's seen the aftermath in my own patients, I can tell you it's devastating. But there's hope. Not all fruit is harmful. When chosen carefully and eaten wisely, some fruits truly protect the brain and heart. Berries, like blueberries and blackberries, are low in sugar, high in antioxidants, and support memory without spiking blood sugar. Granny Smith apples have lower sugar and deliver protective flavonoids, especially when paired with cheese or nut butter. Avocados, often forgotten as a fruit, are rich in healthy fats that help regulate blood pressure naturally. Lemons and limes are excellent for adding flavor without sugar or medication interference. Pomegranates, in small diluted amounts, offer powerful antioxidants with care. And timing matters. Fruit is best enjoyed earlier in the day with protein or fat to slow absorption. Avoid eating fruit right before bed when circulation slows. This isn't about fear. It's about respect. Respect for your years, your health, and the wisdom to adapt, because every choice can bring you closer to staying strong, clear-headed, and independent for many more years to come.